As someone who left California and moved to Europe, I often get asked, what do I miss most? The answer? Hot sauce. My name is Brandon, and I work here at Nomad Capitalist, where we serve 7- and 8-figure high net worth individuals. And I left California, my home state, after being born, raised, and I would say educated, back in 2007. I've returned from time to time, but for the last, almost 12 years, I've lived in Europe. It's been in different places, particularly the UK, and for the last decade, with some additional changes, in Poland. Many people ask, why would you make this change? What do you miss about the States? Are you going to go back? Why wouldn't you go back? How could you ever leave the land of opportunity? And there is a lot of opportunity. I am an American. I speak with an American accent. I think like an American. But there are things that I appreciate about being abroad. And I'd like to share some of my own personal experiences in some of the countries I've had an opportunity to be in. After leaving the US in 2007, I moved to the United Kingdom, to London specifically, to finish up my graduate studies. It was a great place to be a student. Amazing places to eat, amazing places to visit, museums, architecture, fun nightlife, some of which I should probably keep confidential. But at the end of the day, it really helped me understand cultures and how they develop. And there are some unique things that I would have never thought about. For example, language difficulties. You ask, well, how could there be language difficulties when you speak English and they speak English in the United Kingdom? The answer is, I sometimes wonder if they do speak English in the United Kingdom. The accents are so varied. The words are very different. I was joking with a colleague here from the UK at Nomad Capitalist about how expressions mean two completely different things in the UK and the US. And it did take me a while to make sure that I fully understood those idioms. So there are things that you don't think about. It could be a difference of food, a difference of clearly weather, but also language in countries. And is it something that you can accept? I really enjoyed my time in the UK, but like any place, becoming a student or a visitor is very different than living there. In understanding on how, for example, different payments are made, utilities, getting a lease in an apartment, very different. Bank accounts. The day-to-day life is very different than just coming for a bit of time. I then moved to Poland, and probably one of the best decisions I made. I love the country, I love the people, dare I say I love the vodka. And the case is, I've had an opportunity to live in different cities. I started off in the south in Krakow, probably one of the most beautiful, and it used to be underrated cities, though it's become more popular, in all of Europe. Friendly people, amazing restaurants, sights, and one of the few cities in Poland that was untouched largely by the war. I love the access to culture, the history that was around me, and it was a great experience that made me want to stay in Poland, to live that lifestyle. And for the last 10 years, I've been in Warsaw, the capital, and I've seen how much it's changed. I remember when I told friends and family that I was in Poland, I had questions like, well, do polar bears walk down the streets? Do you have toilet paper? And the answer is no polar bears except for the zoo, and yes, we definitely have toilet paper. But I've seen a lot of things change in the country. I remember the first time I was in Poland, there are a few things that stood out in my mind. One is that napkins were tissue paper. How can I use that to eat some messy food? Or why was all the water in glass bottles and carbonated? In America, we never have carbonated water. And lastly, could you just stop putting cabbage with everything? But I've gotten used to those things, and I've seen the country develop quite a bit. I've seen, for example, that new foods get introduced. And as I said at the start, the one thing I miss is hot sauce. Having a good Mexican meal is one thing I miss about California. Do I miss the sunshine? maybe from time to time, but it's also nice to have 4 seasons. I miss food. I miss certain aspects. I miss that when I go into the theater, that sometimes I'm the only one who understands the humor. I was with my wife watching what I think is a classic movie, Ted 2 by Seth MacFarlane, and I couldn't stop laughing. Everybody in the audience was just staring at me because there is a difference of humor. But I also appreciate that uniqueness. I appreciate that I do come from a different background, and it does show me that there is other ways of thinking, other ways of behaving, and other ways of living. And so for me, it was a change. It was a change to understand some of the behaviors of people where, for example, it's very common or even expected after weddings to give a thank you card. In Poland, it's not. Nobody knows what a thank you card is. Also, for example, gifts. It's great to have a registry and go and buy plates or linens for someone that you're going to a wedding. In Poland, it's an envelope of money. Some people prefer it, some people don't. And it's appreciating those unique differences. It's getting used to those differences and understanding, is that really what you want in life? Some people say yes, some people say no. I've had many colleagues and friends who've moved to countries that I've been in, whether it was the UK or Poland, or the time that I spent in the Bahamas. Some people loved those locations, others didn't. And that's one of the great things about the world that we live in. We have the ability to travel, to experience and expose ourselves. But as I said, when you make your decision, remember that visiting a country is oftentimes different than living there. And I'll give you one final item that sums up the difference. Often as Americans, we expect a certain level of service or way of things happening. In my case, I find that, for example, you don't always expect the unexpected. I was building a piece of property. Everything was perfect. It had a road. It had all the utilities in the road ready to go. I applied for the electricity, got it. I applied for the gas, got it. Applied for water, got it. Applied for sewage, didn't get it. Why? Because the sewage plant was at its max capacity. I would have never thought that would have been an issue. The sewer line is a meter from my property, yet it can't be accessed. So you sometimes have to think, what is it like living in these countries? Is there bureaucracy? Is there a history of doing things differently? And how can I adapt to those changes? And that's something that I think a lot of our clientele have to learn. In choosing different places, whether it be in Europe or Latin America or Asia, is how do I adapt to the local culture? And sometimes you have to have hard lessons, but those lessons teach you a lot in life. So as you continue your journey, I wish you the best of luck.